Magandang araw mga kababayan, welcome to our channel and sa first vlog namin. Finally, sobrang excited kami to share ang naging experience namin and ang ginawa naming step-by-step process in applying for student visa sa Canada. And yes, DIY or do-it-yourself ang ginawa namin, meaning hindi kami humingi ng tulong sa anumang agency to process our application. Now, just so you have an idea, having an agency would cost you around 60 to 100,000 pesos just for a single applicant. Iba pa yung fee kung kasama yung asawa at ang mga anak. So just imagine how much money we have saved in doing the DIY process for our application. So kung gusto mo rin makatipid sa application mo, panoorin mo ang video na to. Just a disclaimer, hindi po kami professional immigration consultants. Ito po ay lahat base sa naging research at personal experience namin in doing our application. Now, just a brief background. Katulad ng karamihan, nagsimula din kami ng walang alam until nakapanood kami sa isang vlog sa YouTube na pwede pala makapunta sa Canada kahit pangkaraniwang mamamayan ka lang dito sa Pilipinas. And the good thing there, pwede isama ang buong pamilya. At doon kami nagsimula mag-explore ng possible pathway papuntang Canada. So kung interesado ka rin makapunta ng Canada, para sa iyo tong video na to. And to start with, yes, we applied as a family of 5 and sobrang bait ni Lord dahil na-approve kami na sabay-sabay sa una naming application. Now, siguro ang una niyong tanong, sino ang pwede mong isama? As for family sa pathway na to, magkakaroon kayo ng primary applicant which is a student, yung kailangang mag-aral. Now, ang pwedeng isama ni student ay ang asawa or common law partner or even same-sex partner for OWP or Open Work Permit kung saan pwede magtrabaho ng kahit ilang trabaho na kakayanin. Along with that, pwede isama ang mga dependent na anak. Normally, 18 years old and below kung saan magiging SP minor or TRB. In general, 5 years old and above could be SP minor and 4 years old and below should be TRB or temporary resident visa holder. In our case, our youngest is 4 but nag-aaral na siya dito sa Pilipinas. So we applied SP minor for her and luckily we got approved for SP minor for our youngest, even 4 years old na siya. Now, I would say as long as nag-aaral na yung bata, pwede ng SP minor, even 4 years old, given na we could provide the proof na nag-aaral na yung bata. Now, for SP minor and TRB, pwede silang mag-aral simula primary school hanggang senior high school, and yes, libre ang pag-aaral ng mga bata in most schools sa Canada unless gusto nyo sila i-enroll sa private school. Take note, hindi pwedeng maging dependent ni student ang father or mother or even ang kapatid. Pero pwede sila mag-apply as a tourist once na approved na ang visa ni student. Now, siguro ang tanong ng iba, may age limit ba sa student pathway? The good thing here, in general, wala pong age limit as long as kaya mong mag-aral financially and physically. Siguro isa pang tanong is kung kailangan bang sabay-sabay mag-apply as a family. Now, in our case, sabay-sabay naming in-apply for us to get the approval ng sabay-sabay din. So, isang effort na lang. But nevertheless, pwede ring maunang ma-apply si SP or the student after ma-approve bago i-apply si OWP or the spouse and the kids. Or pwede rin namang maunang ma-apply si SP at si OWP na once approved bago na lang i-apply yung kids. Now, depende na yan sa diskarte nyo and sa availability ng funds as well. Also, one thing to consider, sino ba ang dapat mag-aral sa inyong mag-asawa? I would say, kung sino ang willing mag-aral para wala ng pilitan o sisihan na magaganap. Pero in our case, we went on a practical point of view kung saan inisip din namin kung sino ang kakayaning magtrabaho ng 2 or more na trabaho for open work permit. In that way, ma-maximize namin ang opportunity na kumita at masustain namin yung gastos at pang-tuition sa Canada. Now, next step is to decide what program to take or anong course ang kukunin mo. Now, just like in most cases na nabasa namin, pinili namin yung course na related sa natapos na course at naging work experience dito sa Pilipinas, which is accountancy. In that way, madali namin na-defend bakit kailangan mag-aral. Now, in general, it should show career or education progression. But however, hindi naman bawal kumuha ng totally not related na course from your educational background or work experience nyo dito sa Pilipinas. It could be something that you find your passion with, provided ma-defend nyo appropriately bakit yun ang course na pipiliin nyo. Now, you also need to consider yung length ng program. It could be at least certificate or 1-year program or a diploma na 2-year program, in which nakadepende ang length ng PGWP or yung tinatawag na Post-Graduation Work Permit na igagrant sa inyo after nyo mag-aral. For 1-year program, you will be given 1-year PGWP as well. And for 2 years or more na program, you will be given 3 years PGWP. Based on our research, mas mahaba na PGWP, mas malaki ang chance to gain sufficient Canadian work experience, which is necessary for you to work out your pathway to permanent residency, which is our main goal, bakit mag-aaral. Now, take note, once lang binibigay ang PGWP. So once granted, hindi ka na pwede mag-apply ulit for another PGWP. Also, if I may add, for a family application with kids, you might not be able to get free education para sa mga bata if 1-year program lang ang kukunin nyo. Next, you need to choose the province. Now, sa pagpili ng province, you need to consider some factors like cost of living, job opportunities, relatives or friends, transportation, and even the weather. Now, for cost of living, every province have different tax rate and cost of rent and utilities. Based sa research namin, pinakamahal tumira sa mga major provinces like Toronto and Vancouver. That's why in our case, pinili namin yung smaller province which is New Brunswick kasi isa siya sa pinakamurang cost of living. For example, yung rent ng 2-bedroom apartment, 1,000 to 1,500 Canadian dollar sa New Brunswick. But sa Vancouver or Toronto, it can be arranged from 2,000 to 2,500 Canadian dollar. Now, also check job opportunities. Depende sa skills mo at ng partner mo. May provinces na mas maraming pwede kang maging trabaho. For example, IT. Mas in-demand siya sa major provinces and may PR pathways din sila specifically for IT professionals. So, you really need to do your research kung saan ka posibleng mas in-demand yung skills and experience mo. Now, if you have relatives or friends, you might want to consider where they are. In that way, baka pwede ka nilang matulungan as you will start your journey in Canada. Malaking tulong din kung may matutuluyan na kayong bahay to save na din for rent. On our end, wala kaming kamag-anak sa Canada, so we don't have any choice but to work out kung ano yung kakayanin namin. Now, aside from that, accessibility would be a major factor as well, especially sa tulad nating newcomers. As per our research, may areas na walang bus or even trains. So, kailangan mong i-research paano ka magko-commute, papuntang school, work, or even sa groceries. In this scenario, you might need to consider in buying a car, even a second-hand, for you to start with. Now, one thing more would be the weather. As you know, may iba't ibang season sa Canada, and winter could be extreme in some provinces, so you need to check kung anong province sa tingin mo yung kakayanin mo ang lamig. Next, select your school. In selecting your school, you have to make sure na DLI yung school and they offer PGWP. You need to check how much yung tuition. You need to check if they require IELTS or not. And you need to check the available intake for your selected program. Again, you have to make sure na DLI yung school na pipiliin nyo or designated learning institution which offers PGWP program. Now, you can check the list of the schools sa IRCC website or sa canada.ca. Take note, don't go with schools na hindi DLI or private schools kasi hindi ka mabibigyan ng PGWP after mo gumraduate. Meaning, papauwiin ka ng Pilipinas after mong gumraduate. Now, the main goal kaya tayo mag-student pathway is to apply for a permanent residency later on. And having PGWP again would give us the chance to gain Canadian work experience, which is a major factor sa PR pathways ng Canada. So might as well don't take the risk in applying sa schools na hindi DLI. Also take note, if you're applying as a family, kung hindi DLI or Designated Learning Institution ang school na mapipili nyo at walang PGWP, hindi ka din magiging eligible to bring your partner and your kids as your dependent. Now, you also need to compare the tuition fees. In general, mahal talaga ang tuition fee na international student. It would be around 3 to 4 times ng tuition fee ng domestic student sa Canada. Since malaking gastos ito, kailangan talagang pag-isipan at planuhing maayos. But of course, may school na mas mura at mas mahal pa rin talaga. Like for example, based sa research namin, ang tuition fee ng most schools sa bigger provinces would be around 15,000 to 18,000 Canadian dollar a year. Wherein sa NPCC or New Brunswick Community College, kung saan kami nag-enroll, ang tuition fee is around 10,000 Canadian dollars per year. So yung tuition namin for 2 years is halos equivalent pa lang ng 1-year tuition fee ng ibang school. Also, you might want to check yung school na hindi magre-require ng IELTS or English Proficiency Exam. Now, most schools na hindi magre-require ng IELTS katulad ng NBCC would require you instead to submit what they call English as a Medium of Instruction Certificate na manggagaling sa school nyo dito sa Pilipinas, either sa high school or sa college. Now, ang advantage lang naman ng walang IELTS is makakasave ka ng time sa pagre-review and save money na din since IELTS would cost you almost 12,000 pesos to take. Pero may ibang courses pa din talaga na magre-require ng IELTS, so you don't have any choice but to take IELTS if that's gonna be the case. Now, you also need to confirm kung available yung program na gusto mo sa intake na target mo, and that way, maplano mo nang maayos yung timeline mo simula sa pag-submit ng application mo hanggang sa pag-alis mo papuntang Canada. Next step, acquire your LOA or Letter of Acceptance from the school. Now, in getting the LOA, you can simply go directly sa website ng school kung saan makikita nyo yung list ng programs and available intake ng programs na gusto nyo, as well as the fees like tuition fee and other fees na kailangan mong bayaran. You should also see there the instruction kung paano mag-apply as international student along with the requirements needed. From there, kailangan mo mag-fill up ng forms and upload the necessary documents such as diploma for both high school and college, TOR or transcript of records for both high school and college if necessary. Now, for high school, that will be the Form 137. And since the NBCC pwede walang IELTS, we just submitted instead yung English as a medium of instruction. Also, you might want to attach a marriage certificate if ever may changes sa last name nyo. Now, after uploading and filling up the forms, you need to pay application fee which will vary depending sa school na mapipili nyo. In our case, sa NBCC, application fee is 100 Canadian dollar, which is non-refundable. Now, kung may budget kayo, pwede naman kayo mag-apply sa iba't ibang school, and from there, pili na lang kayo ng school na tatanggap sa inyo na pinakagusto nyo talaga. But then again, kailangan nyo bayaran yung application fee sa bawat school na pag-a-applyan nyo, depending sa school kung refundable or non-refundable yung application fee kung hindi kayo tutuloy. Now, once accepted, normally, you will receive an offer sa school, and in order to confirm the seat and get the LOA, you need to pay confirmation deposit or even the tuition fee to get the LOA completely. Sa NBCC, confirmation deposit lang ang kailangan bayaran, which is 500 Canadian dollar, and may LOA ka na. But again, sa ibang school, they may require you to pay the tuition fee or even a portion of that in order for you to get the LOA. Next is for you to gather the required documents. As a requirement, you need to prepare proof of identification, school documents, employment documents, and proof of home ties. Now, as a proof of identity, you need to have the passport. You need to have the bio page and lahat ng pages na may tatak if you have traveled abroad. Also, you will be needing a digital picture since online ang application. You can check IRCC website or canada.ca for the exact required dimension for digital picture. On our end, pumunta lang kami ng photo line. Sinabi namin for Canada passport. And we just did minor adjustments since hindi eksakto yung dimension ng photo line sa required dimension ng IRCC for digital ID. And then pinasend namin sa email at yun ang ginamit namin. You will also be needing PSA birth certificate and PSA marriage certificate that you can simply request online or to the nearest PSA branch on your area. Now, you will also need to have NBI clearance. Although NBI clearance ang validity is 1 year, for visa application purposes according to our research, it should be at least 3 months before lodging your application. Now, if you have stayed abroad or sa ibang bansa for more than 6 months, you might need to have a police clearance sa bansa na yon. Now, for school documents or yung proof ng educational background, you can simply provide the diploma for high school and college, and then transcript of records or TOR from high school and college din, and yung English as a medium of instruction certificate for high school and college din. Now, for employment documents, as per IRCC, you need to include all the work that you've done within the last 10 years. Now, you can simply provide your curriculum vitae or resume as a summary of your employment. Now, also you need to provide COE or Certificate of Employment. And then you need to provide ITR and the payslip for added reference as well. Now, you also need to prepare documents that would pertain to your home ties. Ito yung mga acquired assets nyo na pwede nyong balikan after nyo mag-aral. So, for house and lot, you can provide contract to sell if under mortgage pa or deed of sale kung bayad na. So, sa kotse or anumang sasakyan, you can simply provide ORCR. And if you have businesses, you can provide DTI, mayor's permit, and even the picture of your business, which what we did. Now, if you have insurance, any proof na may insurance ka, and then government contributions such as SSS, Pag-ibig, PhilHealth, you can simply provide ID or any certificate of your contribution. Now, you can also add pictures of your family and for your travels, just for added reference then. Next step would be the medical. Now, this would be one of the major requirements in order for you to complete your visa application. For medical, you can simply check IRCC to know the list of the designated health institution or what they call approved panel physician in your area. In the Philippines, the approved panel physician would be IOM or the International Organization for Migration sa Makati, and then St. Luke's Extension Clinics, which is the IRMITA, and then the NHS or the Nationwide Health System na nasa Baguio, Cebu, and Davao. Take note, bawal ang walk-in, so you really need to book an appointment for your medical either directly on their website or simply sending them an email. Now, for student visa application in particular, you can do upfront medical, meaning you will perform or do your medical prior sa lodging ng application mo. Or you can simply wait for the medical request once you lodge your application. Now, the only advantage that we see in doing the upfront is that magagawa mo pa ng paraan or may time ka pang magpagamot if ever may makitang findings pagka-medical mo. Now, for the procedures na gagawin sa medical, it will include physical exam, which is the usual review of medical history, take measurements of vital signs, and even the physical assessment. Now, it will also include chest x-ray, and then urine analysis, and then the blood test, which is included na yung HIV test, Hep B test, serum creatinine, and the syphilis test. Now, magkano magpa-medical? Now, it will depend sa age ng magpapamedical. By the way, this is from IOM where we did our medical. So for below 10 years old, you need to pay 3,000 pesos. For 11 to 14 years old, that's 5,000 pesos. And then 15 years old and above, that's 10,000 pesos. Now again, this is from IOM. The medical fees for St. Luke's and NHS would be different. Ang alam ko mas mahal, but you can simply check their website for the exact amount. Now just a reminder, your medical is only valid for 1 year. So kailangan mong planuhin kung kailan ka magpapamedical hanggang makaalis ka. Dapat maka-flight ka pa Canada before mag-expire yung medical mo, otherwise kailangan mong magpa-medical ulit. Next, you need to secure your proof of funds. Now, this is going to be one of the vital component of your application. As per IRCC or Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada, this is how you will show or prove that you have sufficient or enough money to study or settle in Canada. Now, if you fail to prove or show that you are financially ready or financially established for this endeavor, pwede itong maging major reason for your application to be refused. Now, IRCC have set the minimum funds required for this pathway, which should be 1 year tuition fee and 1 year cost of living. Now, the tuition fee will of course vary depending on the school at the program na pipiliin mo. On the other hand, the cost of living will depend on the number of family members na isasama mo. That should include 10,000 Canadian dollar for the primary applicant, which is the student, and then additional 4,000 Canadian dollar for the OWP or the spouse, and then 3,000 Canadian dollar for each dependent or the kids na isasama mo. Now, this is just the minimum requirement. However, kung may ilalaki pa, mas maganda. Sabi nga nila, the more, the better. So you can show more of your financial capability. To show your available funds, you can provide bank statements, normally 4 to 6 months of the statement, or you can simply provide bank certificate. On our end, we just provided bank certificate. Along with that, we have provided supporting documents such as ITR, COE, and payslips just to justify kung saan galing yung laman ng bank account. As per our research, you need to avoid bulk deposits because it can be a red flag. Baka isipin ni visa officer, dineposit lang yung amount na yon just for the sake of the application. However, kung hindi maiiwasan na may bulk deposit, you can simply provide supporting documents just to justify saan galing yung bulk deposit na ganong kalaking pera. It can either be a donation or simply pinagbentahan ng ari-arian. So simply provide the supporting documents to justify yung ganong kalaking pera na na-deposit. Now, in the event na kulang yung personal savings, another option would be having a sponsor. Yes, pwede magpa-sponsor. Ang tanong, sino ba ang pwedeng mag-sponsor sa'yo? Actually, kahit sino. It can be a relative or just a friend, as long as meron silang justifiable reason bakit kanila iso-support. Now, your sponsor needs to provide affidavit of financial support. It could be for your tuition fee or cost of living or just simply for accommodation. They also need to provide proof of financial capability such as their own bank statement or bank certificate, their ITR, COE, and payslip. Next step, you need to make your SOP or yung Statement of Purpose or tinatawag ding LOI or Letter of Intent for OWP or the spouse and also for the kids. Ito yung formal letter kung saan i-explain nyo kung bakit gusto nyo o kailangan nyong mag-aral sa Canada. Isa ito sa pinaka-importanting part ng application nyo. Sabi nga nila, this will make or break your application. Ito yung isa sa magiging basis ng visa officer to assess and determine kung reasonable yung dahilan nyo bakit kayo mag-aaral for them to approve or refuse your application. As an introduction, you may briefly discuss your educational background, work experience, and yung primary reason nyo bakit gusto nyo mag-aral. It could be for a career upgrade or simply you wanna start up a business. Now, you also need to explain bakit sa Canada, sa dami-dami ng bansa na nag-accept ng international student. Now, it could be because of the quality of the education or yung amount ng tuition compared sa ibang bansa. Now, you also need to justify bakit yun yung course or program na napili nyo. You can simply emphasize yung relevance ng program na napili nyo sa naging educational background or work experience nyo or kung bakit makakatulong ito sa inyo. Now, you also need to discuss kung bakit yun ang school na napili nyo. Now, for this, you can simply check yung website ng school and see kung ano yung meron sila na posibleng mas angat compared sa ibang school at kung bakit sila makakatulong sa'yo. Also, you need to explain yung future plans mo after mo mag-aral. And take note, sa part na to, kailangan nyong i-emphasize na uuwi kayo ng Pilipinas after nyo mag-aral kahit alam naman nating may plan tayo to apply for permanent residency later on. Now for this, you can simply cite the employment opportunities available sa Pilipinas after nyo mag-aral for your homecoming. Also, you need to discuss your financial capability or sinong magpo-provide ng financial support for your education. Sa part na to, kailangan nyong i-emphasize na kakayanin nyo yung gastos as an international student or kakayanin ng sponsor nyo yung gastos to support you. Now, for family application, you need to discuss bakit nyo kailangan isama yung pamilya. It could be for your emotional or physical support or simply being an inspiration habang nag-aaral ka. Now, you also need to mention yung home ties mo just to justify more na babalik ka sa Pilipinas pagkatapos mo mag-aral. As your home ties, you can include your parents, your kids, or even your siblings. You can also add yung assets like house and lot, kotse. If you have insurance, you can include that, along with your government contributions like PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, and SSS, and even pets kung meron ka. Also, you may want to mention your travel history if you have traveled abroad. Either nagtrabaho ka or simply namasyal ka lang sa ibang bansa. Now, lastly, you can have the declaration in which you can mention na fully aware ka sa Canadian immigration and regulations and that you will leave Canada at the end of your authorized stay. Now for your reference, I would suggest na sumali ka sa iba't ibang FB group ng Student Pathway for Canada and that way, makikita mo yung nagsishare ng iba't ibang SOP nila at magkaroon ka ng mas maraming idea kung paano naman gagawin yung SOP mo. Nevertheless, mas maganda na ikaw talaga yung gumawa ng SOP mo dahil ika nga mas alam mo yung kwento mo. Also, wala namang standard sa paggawa ng SOP when it comes to font size and whatnot or even the number of pages ng SOP mo. Depende na yan kung saan ka komportable. Ang importante ma-explain mo ng maayos yung purpose mo. Next step is to lodge your application or to submit your application. At this stage, you should have all the required documents and nagawa mo na rin yung SOP mo. Now, in order for you to lodge your application, you need to create yung tinatawag na GC Key account na makikita sa IRCC website or sa canada.ca. Now, once you are in, the system will be asking a series of questions na kailangan mong sagutin according sa actual situation mo. Now, once you're done answering the questions, the system will automatically launch yung required na mga fields kung saan mo i-upload yung mga required documents accordingly. Now, you just need to follow the instruction and the description sa bawat field kung saan mo i-upload yung corresponding document. Now, meron ding system-generated na forms na kailangan nating pirmahan. So, kailangan nating ipaprint, pirmahan, ipascan, and then i-upload ulit. Now, meron din namang mga forms na kailangan lang nating i-validate instead na pirmahan after nating ma-fill upan. Now, you might want to double check kung tama yung mga sagot natin sa mga forms at tama yung mga documents na na-upload natin. And also, always read and follow the instruction, especially online lahat and system-generated lahat. Now, after mo ma-upload lahat completely, you may proceed to the payment of the necessary fees. Now, this will include a student visa fee, which is 150 Canadian dollar, ng main applicant na student at ng minors na student na dependents. You also need to pay the visa fee ng open work permit for the spouse, which is a total of 255 Canadian dollars. And also you need to pay the biometrics fee, which is 85 Canadian dollars each. Now, on our experience, hindi gumana yung debit card, kaya gumamit na lang kami ng credit card bago nag-push through yung payment. Now, after mong magbayad, then you're all good to go. You will then be receiving, after a few minutes, a correspondence letter confirming na na-receive na nila yung application mo. Now, after that, you should also be receiving what they call the biometrics request letter in the next 24 to 48 hours upon submitting your application. Now, isa rin ito sa major requirement na kailangan mong gawin so you could complete your application. Now for that, you just need to book an appointment sa VFS Global or Canadian Embassy sa Makati for you to do your biometrics accordingly. And for the biometrics process itself, sobrang dali lang. Halos mga 30 minutes lang ata tapos na kami. And by the way, ang required lang mag-biometrics is 14 years old and above. So yung below that, hindi na kailangang mag-biometrics. Now just to share our timeline, February 22, nag-apply kami ng LOA for NBCC. And by June 2022, na-receive namin yung LOA from NBCC. Now on August 19, nag-upfront medical kaming lahat. September 8, finally na-lodge namin yung application. And then September 9, within 24 hours, na-receive namin yung biometrics request. And then September 14, nag-medical pass kaming lahat sa GCK. By September 15, nagpa-biometrics kami and nag-reflect din sa GCK within the day. September 22, reviewing eligibility na ang status namin sa GCK. And finally, October 19, nakuha namin ang matamis na off from visa officer for our approval. And yes, yun na nga po ang step-by-step process in applying for student visa for Canada. And I hope we could make more informative videos like this para makatulong na rin kami, lalo na yung mga nagsisimula pa lang mangarap. Samahan po natin ang maraming dasal kasabay ng ating paggalaw. Ika nga nila, hindi mo malalaman kung hindi mo susubukan. Hanggang sa muli, thank you for watching.